Hello, Namaskar. Welcome to my pod, the CAA Show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis. My name is Juggi Bhasin. To become a subscriber of the show, all you have to do is to press a red button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. You can also join by Instagram. And we would also really appreciate if you could like the video and share this video with your friends. All right. Now, the events of the last few days and the pertinent question which needs to be asked is that why is Pakistan a state which supports and abets terrorism? In fact, a lot of people would argue that it is not only a state which supports terrorism, but it venerates terrorism. The terrorist, or what we in India would certainly call the enemy within, that terrorist is an integral part of Pakistani society. Why is it that nobody is squeamish about it, apologetic about it, or the fact that they want to get rid of this malaise? Nobody wants to do that, it seems. And therefore, it leads one to the conclusion that is Pakistan a country which is suffering from mass psychosis? Now, first of all, I'm going to explain the meaning of the word psychosis, and then I will explain this theory to you that this could actually be a country suffering from mass psychosis. Psychosis, very simply, is a state of being where a person is unconnected with reality. He lives in what we would call maybe in a parallel universe, in a different universe, but totally cut off from reality. The disease could be delusional, it could be schizophrenic, it could be anything, but that person is not connected with reality. And therefore, you would ask the obvious question that yes, psychosis is a mental state of being, but does it not affect individuals or people? How can it affect nation states? And I'm going to argue that it does affect nation states. Sometimes nation states experience mass psychosis, which goes on and on, sometimes for years. And the biggest example which I can give you was the case of Nazi Germany around the period of the Second World War. Nazi Germany was a nation at that time suffering from supremacist, they had this complex that they were a master race, that they had the finest military anywhere in the world, and they could conquer any land they wished to. That was the obsession, and they all felt that the German race at that time was the supreme race, the master race, which could do anything they wanted. Pakistan has a kind of a similar problem, that they feel that they are a cut above the rest. They have one of the finest militaries in this entire region, that they are not answerable to anyone. They can get away with terrorism. And therefore, this entire country, to that extent, is suffering from what I call mass psychosis. Now, there are three different ways where I would argue that this country is suffering from mass psychosis. The first thing is this, that in the recent war, and it was a war really between India and Pakistan, though it lasted for 3.5 days, a short, intense war. I wouldn't really call it a skirmish, because it was an almost an all-out attack which the Pakistanis had launched against us. The drone attacks, the missile attacks, and if not for our missile shields and for the absolutely stupendous role played by the Indian Air Force, then who knows what kind of damage might have been done to the country, to the people at large. So it was a full-fledged 3.5 day intense war. And we all know the results of the war, or at least all sensible people in the world, all practical people in the world, all people in the right state of mind, mentally healthy people know that India won this war fair and square and Pakistan was defeated. But that's not the case in Pakistan. All the information that is coming from Pakistan, all the news that is coming from Pakistan, all the videos which are coming from Pakistan show us that they believe that they won this war with India. And therefore, when there is no evidence to back on the ground that you have won the war, then what the sufferer of this mental illness does is that you start creating a fantasy world. And how do you create a fantasy world? How do you create a parallel universe? You do it through trickery, you do it through forgery, you do it actually using the tools of artificial intelligence to create absolutely new videos, to cut and slice and make up different images showing that air bases in India were bombed and the Pakistani planes, they destroyed Rafales and they bombed our bases and they created terror in the country. That's the narrative. That's the narration which is going on in Pakistan right now. In short, what really I'm saying is that in the absence of hard reality, in the absence of the real truth, Pakistan has been creating a parallel universe, a fantasy world of victory which does not exist. That's the first way, or the first symptom which shows that it's not only certain people, it's not only the leadership, but the entire country really is suffering from mass psychosis. That's the first part. Then the second part, you stage events, you stage occurrences. For instance, I think it was yesterday when the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Sharif, and the Army Chief Munir, they were together in some place in Pakistan, which actually looked like a film set. If you ask me, standing on top of a tank. And why standing on top of a tank? Nobody could understand. It was supposed to be part of an airbase, but they didn't show the airbase at all. And how could they? Because the airbase, as we all know, that the runways were bombed out. There was nothing left of the airbase. So they stood on top of a tank, and Shehbaz Sharif proclaimed to the world that we have avenged the defeat of 1971. How did you avenge that? The whole thing seemed cartoonish. The whole thing seemed like there was part of some film set. Even the soldiers, the Pakistani military, which was standing, and you could see their faces, even they did not believe their own leaders, their own army chief, what he was saying. It was so ridiculous. But then that's part of the narrative. That's part of the mental problems which you are suffering from, that you don't accept reality and you start creating and start actually believing. More than creating, you start believing in a fantasy reality, in a parallel universe which you have created for yourself. And the third leg, or the third way that you do all this, is that you deploy the resources of your media, both the state media, that is state media being PTV, that is Pakistan Television, and the private channels of Pakistan, like Geo TV, Sama TV, all these other commentators like Najam Sethi, all these other commentators, where one and all, they are crowing that, oh, we have won this great victory against India. Nobody wants to look at their air bases, which have been bombed out, the hangars, which have been bombed out, the precision strikes of the BrahMos missiles, Indian BrahMos missiles on their air bases. Nobody wants to look at that. But they all want to stand in some corner, some like a film, painted film set on top of tanks and all that, and proclaim to the world that we have won this great victory. But what does it show? It really shows that there are these delusions of grandeur. There are these delusions of some kind of a victory which exists, as I said, in a parallel universe. You are, and I suspect somewhere that not only they are counterfeiting, faking it and all that, but they have started believing their own fakery, which is a sign of mental illness. That is what really is happening in Pakistan today. And it's not only, you would say, confined to the army chief or to the prime minister or to the top echelons of powerful people in Pakistan. It is all over. All their media, their entire citizenry, the common people, just about everybody believes in that. And as I gave you the example of Nazi Germany, and that also was the case in Nazi Germany. If you go through history records and you go into the pages of history, then you will find that the ordinary German citizen at that time, they actually really believed they were the master race. The same problem was there in apartheid in South Africa, where the white South African used to believe that he was also, he was born to rule over the blacks in South Africa. So it's not as if nation states don't go through psychosis. They don't go through these illusions of grandeur. They don't go through a complete misconception. Italy under Mussolini also was suffering from the same problem. And now it's a turn in the modern age, in today, in 2025, the turn of Pakistan, which believes in these illusions of grandeur. And it also, the starkness of what they believe and what really is on the ground is so acute, because the reality is that the economic conditions of Pakistan they are in a complete mess. They are in a state of almost an economic wipeout, if I can say that. And the biggest problem which now confronts them, which I'm surprised nobody even wants to talk about intelligently, is the Indus Water Treaty. The treaty which now India has held in abeyance, which means we have suspended the treaty. We don't follow the rules of the treaty. As I said, we have started using the IWT like a tap, turn on and turn off, to teach Pakistan a lesson. And yes, of course, they have threatened us with that we will bomb the dams, we will nuke you. They've done all that. And none of that has worked. We have called their nuclear bluff. We have also called their bluff because their missiles, in any case, have not been able to penetrate our defensive shield. But the pertinent point again is that this is the single biggest problem facing Pakistan. It is not even their military, it is not even all the other things, because without water, what do you do? And if India chokes off the water, and India is already starting doing that, not immediately because we have to release the water from the dams, otherwise our dams can be affected and there could be a problem of floods on our own side. But what we are doing is we are not notifying them. We are not telling them when we will release the water. We hold back the water when we want to, which actually is, in a certain sense, destroying their cycle of their crops, of their agriculture. And if the crops this season goes away without any yield, if agriculture fails, if the entire harvesting fails in this season, they could be facing a complete shortage of food grains and maybe even famine in the future. Who knows? Anything can happen. And this is obviously the single biggest problem which Pakistan faces. But here's the amazing thing, that no sensible voice is coming forward to say that, look, we need to talk to India in a sensible way. We need to discuss this with India. We need to actually, understand why is India so pissed off with us, quite literally, and what we can do to alleviate the situation. Instead, the only thing which they are doing is, oh, we'll nuke you, we'll bomb you, we'll do this. It's not worked. But even today, they're still talking of, oh, we won this great victory, but nobody's talking really of the IWT problem, which is the single biggest issue plaguing Pakistan. And then, it doesn't really end there. What about trade? See, in the trade component, even though the volume of trade between India and Pakistan is not that great, but it is still significant because a certain portion of the stuff which we used to export rather to Pakistan were pharmaceuticals, medicines, I think even fresh fruits and vegetables, and a lot of these other things. Without pharma, what are you going to do? You're going to get everything from your dear friend Turkey, from halfway across the world, at 10 times the price. How will it come? Through planes? You bring it through Karachi, and who knows, tomorrow India might blockade Karachi. Then what do you do? Nobody in Pakistan is thinking of these problems. Their obsession, oh, we have won this great military victory, which, as I said, exists only in a parallel universe. It really shows this is a nation, uh, a collect of people, as I would say, the many crores and crores of such people, all suffering from mass psychosis. Now, I've given you the reality of what really is happening in Pakistan today as compared to the fantasy which they have created for themselves. But the question we also need to ask is that why has this state of being come into Pakistan? What is the reason for that? Because how can people of a country, so many crores and crores of people, all of them become delusional, harboring fantasies and harboring all these, thoughts about grandeur when actually the situation on the ground is pitiful, to say the least. The reason for that is that right from the beginning, every child in Pakistan is brought up with the concept of something, the subcontinental version of a master race. And what is the master race concept in Pakistan? That we Pakistanis are superior to Indians. The Indians, they think of them as the banya. Whether you are a Brahmin or whether you are a scheduled class or whatever, you might be anything. They all categorize, Pakistanis love to categorize Indians as banya, which is a derogatory way of saying that you are all these brownies, dark skinned people, and we Pakistanis are fair, we are better fed, we are better looking. This is serious. This is not a joke or something which I am saying, but this is the obsession, this is the conviction which the ordinary Pakistani has, that we are a better species of a human being as compared to an Indian. And this is what the Pakistani is brought up upon. And the concept of that one Pakistani is equal to 10 Indians, all these kind of crazy concepts, they're all brought up on that. And therefore, the illusionary state of being, of grandeur, of omnipotence actually begins right from childhood onwards and it continues. Then number two, and that is, I think, the singular biggest problem of Pakistan. There is an elite of Pakistan. But when I'm saying the elite, I don't really mean the billionaires or the millionaires and all that. They are, of course, part of that. But I'm saying even the people who have jobs, people who are middle class, upper middle class, who are reasonably well off, which probably would be what? Not even 0.5, 1 or 2% of the entire population of Pakistan, maybe a few lakhs people, which some people have calculated. And what these people have done is that they have created an ecosystem where the rest of the Pakistan, that is the ordinary, the person who is tilling the fields, the person who's trying to make two ends meet, the laborer, the ordinary people of Pakistan, they want to keep them under check, under control. And how do you do that? They do that because they don't have the economic policies or the economic vision or the strength to give benefits to all people, unlike India, for instance. And so, how do they do that? They do that by creating this trap, I would say, for the ordinary Pakistani. They create this illusion of grandeur, and the illusion of grandeur comes from their military. Now, let me explain that. And the irony being that the military of Pakistan, in every encounter with India, in every battle with India, in every war with India, they have lost. And yet, the Pakistanis stayed over the years and all dispensations. It doesn't matter if it was Imran Khan or Shehbaz Sharif today or Nawaz Sharif earlier or whoever else, or even in the time of General Zia-ul Haq. It doesn't matter. All of them have created this fantasy that the Pakistani military is an omnipotent force. It is the most desirable occupation in the country. That if you get into the Pakistani military, your career, not only your career is made, but your life is made, the life of your family is made, you are in service of the country, you are the elite, the best of the best in the country. Whereas in the developed world, in so many countries, and even in India also now we see as more and more advancement happens, people branch off into the private sector and other things. Armed forces are not the first choice or preference. But in Pakistan, it's the complete opposite because the military still happens to be that highest level, the highest thing which you can ever achieve or get in the country. And therefore, while the ordinary Pakistani keeps hoping to get into the military in some capacity or the other, these elites they create this narrative that we are this, as I said, an omnipotent force. We cannot be defeated, certainly not by India. And they suck in all the resources of the country. That in reality is what is happening. So basically, it's a psychosis which works at two levels. There is a psychosis of the elite, which has determined in its mind that we are the masters, whatever, of this country. We will suck in all the resources to keep feeding our army or whatever. And the psychosis of the ordinary man, of the ordinary Joe on the street in Pakistan, who believes that it's only the military which is something to aspire to. I have to somehow get into the military because nothing else matters. So there is a double kind of a psychosis which is working in the state of Pakistan at any given point in time. And that is why you could argue that why are not revolutions or why are not people protesting against this? Yes, they are protesting. People in Balochistan are protesting. People even in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir are protesting. And these, if not, they will break away at some point or the other. We all know that in Sindh, it's also happening. But in central Punjab, which is the main, the Punjabi-dominated part of Pakistan, this system is still working. And that is why in the system, the terrorist also finds acceptance. He's a necessary part of that psychosis. He is like a tool which has to be used to advance the interests of this elite. And therefore, now you see this entire superstructure of the military, the aspirational military, both for the elite as well as for the ordinary person who keeps aspiring, even though that ordinary person doesn't understand that the military is basically populated by families of Pakistan, which generation after generation keep sending their sons into the Pakistani military. The ordinary person actually doesn't really get a chance. It's the same set of people and their families after, and then after which come, they start getting employment, they get employment in the Pakistani army. So it's a vicious system, but it's a system which works in Pakistani Punjab, and therefore nobody questions it. It is being questioned in the outer grid of Pakistan. That is why Balochistan is breaking away. That is why there are problems in Pakistan occupied Kashmir. That is why the Afghans have long away. They have understood this problem, and they realized, the Afghans, a long time back, many years back, that all that Pakistan was doing was to use the name of religion or the Islamic hold and try to turn Afghanistan against India. It hasn't worked. And now you can see that how the Afghan government is making overtures to India. So this sense of mass psychosis is there because it is based on this belief that we are a supreme kind of a military, a race, and therefore everything will be done to perpetuate that. The same few lakhs, some people argue that it's not more than 3 or 4 lakh people in Pakistan who keep perpetuating this entire mythology. So in that sense, you could say it's a kind of a schizophrenic behavior. Then there's one more factor I would like to talk about, that why this behavior is tolerated in the rest of the world, because that's also a very interesting point. That it's not only, I don't think I'm the only one who has probably understood the sense of mass psychosis which grips Pakistan. I think there are other sensible people in the world, especially in the Western world, who understand the behavior of the Pakistani establishment and the Pakistani state and how it functions. But why don't they do something about it? Why don't they pressurize Pakistan? For instance, we all know that the IMF has recently released almost, I don't know the exact amount, but close to more than $2 billion to Pakistan. And we all know that a substantial part of that is obviously going to go into the Pakistani military. But why do they tolerate it? Not only they tolerate it, but some would say they even encourage it. And there are 2, 3 factors to this, because India, to that extent, which again is a topic for a totally separate podcast, India troubles them because India is that brown country which has come into its own. It is developing and everything on its own. It is becoming a powerhouse in its own. Pakistan does this very interesting thing that they still have strong connections with their colonial, the people who used to rule over them in the Western world. Their military has, even today, extensive military contacts with a lot of Western countries. The generals are familiar. They are on good first name basis with a lot of the senior staff, general military staff in the Western countries. That equation is still very much, that's the first part of it. And the second part of it is that a lot of Western countries, even today, they will bail out Pakistan, even if Pakistan is sinking, but they will still bail them out, whether in terms of military matters, that is by giving equipment at critical times. We all know so many years back when the F-16s were given to Pakistan, ostensibly to fight terrorism. But we all know what the F-16s were used for. Uh, and also bailouts, like the IMF bailout, which has been recently given. These kind of bailouts are periodically given to Pakistan to keep it afloat, because there are forces in the Western world which should not let Pakistan sink because of two important things. That that there is a lot of sentimentalism, that's the right word which I'm looking for, and I'm not joking about this, of this Pakistani military to military contacts between Pakistani military and the military cadres of many Western countries. Those contacts still exist. So it's a sentimentalism that no, we can't let them sink. We have to bail them out. And the other factor also is that a lot of Western countries like to use Pakistan as leverage against India because India makes them uncomfortable. And the third part is that the media, the Western media especially, plays again a very, very inimical role as far as India is concerned by being completely hostile to India. Because the only kind of India which the Western media will tolerate or will like is, that India which has gone away so many years back. The India of the helpless India, the famine-struck India, the sadhu India, of religious divinity, the karma and all that, which is again, the civilization part is important to us. But that's not only the India. There is so many different aspects to our country. But the strong India economic powerhouse, a strong military, that makes the Western media very uncomfortable. And therefore, it's actually a kind of a coming together, I would say, of the old military ties between Pakistan military and the militaries of Western Europe, the senior generals, the senior staffers, a coming together of even the bureaucracies of political leadership and also the media of the Western world. They will not let Pakistan sink. They will not let it fade away in the sunset. They will not let the right kind of breakups which are required. Balochistan needs to break away. POK needs to come back to India. The Afghans already have broken away, and this Pakistani Punjab, Sindh needs to break away. They don't want that at all. They want to keep status quo ante, as it is said, vis-a-vis Pakistan, primarily against as huge leverage against India. So the point is the schizophrenic state of Pakistan, the very fact that this country is, as I said, suffering delusions of grandeur, it is gripped by mass psychosis, is a story which is not something which I am breaking for the first time. I think there are parts of the story which are known in the Western world. But it is important for us to be aware of this, to understand the existential dilemmas of a country like Pakistan and why Pakistan behaves the way it does. And so, on this note, I come to the end of this podcast, and I hope you really enjoyed the show. And if you like this podcast, do, of course, subscribe to it. And till next time, of course, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.